This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and today is my special guest for a follow-up interview that's going to be mostly questions that you fans have submitted to me for Mr. Severn. But here he is, former UFC champion, former Ultimate champion, UFC Hall of Famer, two-time NWA champion, former WWE superstar, Dan, the Beast, Severn, who also wrestled up here in Canada for Great North Wrestling before. How are you today, Mr. Severn? You're outside in the great outdoors.
Well, I'm outside of my little island property here. It is starting to rain. I'm okay right now because it's just a nice little light rain. But if it gets too hard, I may have to seek shelter underneath the porch here. But right now, I'm good to go. But just so your fans kind of see out there, little panoramic view going all the way around. Do a quick little 360. That I am indeed on an island, and the snow, it's not down in the Caribbean or anything like that. It's right here in the state of Michigan. So
That's not the same property where your training center is in Michigan, is it?
no. This property right here is located in Howell, Michigan, and my training facility is located at Coldwater, Michigan. So, we're still in that uh, coronavirus pandemic, I'll say aftermath type aspect. Each state is a little bit different as to what they're allowing to open up first. Um, a lot of your food industries, going through drive-throughs, say that nature, or takeouts, they're taking place. But the gym industry is lagging behind. Arizona, they opened up a little over a week ago, but like I said, each state with their governor, it depends upon how they feel we should be moving forward.
And there was a fan that wanted to ask you, his name is AL5, what you think about the future of the world and America with what's going on right now with this epidemic or so-called epidemic.
Okay, what was his first name?
His computer name, I guess, is AL5.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people, again, that's where sometimes I just wish people would be bold and just, if you want to say something, use your name. It's but that's right. He's not looking for anything. I guess when I bring that comment like that is, sometimes you have fans that will take a pot shot at you, but they're not man enough to put their own name behind it. But he was not taking a pot shot there whatsoever. Realistically, I have a little bit different take about this whole coronavirus. Now, was there a virus? Sure, there's a virus. The fact that they did not have any kind of a cure for it. What it was doing, how many people were getting sick. But the reality is the common cold still took out what then what. So I mean, it's a shame as to what happened, that it caused countries to shut down, cause industries to shut down. I don't know what the numbers would have been. I mean, again, this is just me speaking outright, but even when it comes to the common cold, who's more at risk? Well, older people are usually more at risk, or young people are more at risk. So to me, that's just what it is. As the rain's coming down, I am going to start to seek a little bit more drier ground here, but we'll keep moving along. Not that the beast is going to melt in the rain anytime soon.
Yes.
It was beautiful this morning as I was sitting outside here. I kept thinking, okay, we'll be coming up here around 8 a.m. this morning. But it's kind of nice seeing the ducks and the geese swimming by with their little families.
Oh, you got your flag perched high on your property too.
Oh, but of course, I'm a big time American flag waver. I believe in what all the different things that it stands for. Yeah, like I said, going back up there to see. So yeah, even I'll even walk around here on the property a little bit. It's like I said, I'm not going to melt anytime soon. But again, going to look around, little kind of like the little beach area here. Got to get a load of sand in. That's the more difficult aspects. Is everything has to be brought in by barge, and kind of a unique thing over here is I'll aim you out. See a couple of the willow trees here. We just had, again, a lot of cleaning up, a lot of mowing, trimming, picking, or raking. This is actually a little boat slip out on this side that I'll have a couple other types of boats, canoes, kayaks, things of that nature, in and out. But I said that here's me doing my lumberjack workout, just simply chopping wood and splitting on up. It gives you just a better idea of the overall property.
Speaking of the lumberjack workout, what are you doing for training these days? You always are known to be in top shape.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's still, there's a lot of isometrics. That's the one thing that I always tell people. I tend to work out even when I'm driving down the road. They're like, you can't work out when you're driving down the road. I said, yes, I can. I said, it's called isometrics. And like, what do you mean? I says, well, I go, what do most bodybuilders do? They flex, and actually flexing or holding something for a period of time is basically isometrics. So that's kind of what I do. So as I'm driving down the road, I'll just simply just flex left arm, right arm. I'll flex legs, abs. Hell, I do torso twists. I do some side bends. I mean, it just all depends because I do go through quite a few rental cars in the process. And, it's I've actually retired a couple of them already on for the different rental companies. I'm not mentioning any names right now because I'm in the process of trying to negotiate a deal with one or two of them because I do drive a lot. A lot of people wonder, well, why do you drive and not fly? And very rarely, again, I'm just kind of coming back, just grab my chair. But again, to me, this is actually very peaceful serenity. Even though, yeah, it's raining, but it's pretty cool to know that you can, work from home, do things. It's kind of like I'm still doing a lot of critiquing of amateur wrestlers. That's still my number one forte is amateur wrestling, and I'm critiquing a lot of amateur wrestlers. On they'll send me like 3 of the matches. That's what I tell them. I said this: you'll send me 3 of your matches, and I can critique you just based off of 3 matches alone. And off those 3 matches, I'm looking at things like, what are you doing right? What are you doing? What I feel you're doing wrong? And then little corrections to do, even all the way to the point I even ask them about their diet and nutrition and things of that nature, and even recommend other things to them. Just go clean the screen. Just a whoops. Better not try to clean the screen. Might lose you. All right.
So they
Sit back
can,
down. Become stationary.
for those amateur wrestling critiques, they can get in touch with you through your website for that.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'd say the website, but right now that's still. I've really been slacking in getting that re-updated. The best way still just through the email dan@dansevern.com. The website will show a number of different things that I do, but when the new website finally comes up, it'll be a lot more. It'll be a lot nicer at that point. It'll show even a lot more. And when they were showing me some of the stuff that they came up with pictures and videos that I have never even seen before. You know, I've been around a long time, and that's the reality of it all. And I do such a wide variety of things. Like I always tell people that I don't have to worry about my future because I've got probably a dozen different jobs that I do. Most of it is in the training field. So amateur wrestling is still number one, folk style wrestling, which is what we do here in the United States. But then there's freestyle wrestling, there's Greco-Roman wrestling. And then you go into the submission grappling. Well, submission grappling could be either with gi work or non-gi work. And then you go into all the different first responders I work with. So I work with law enforcement, corrections, air marshal, border patrol, military. Ever since the Ultimate Fighting Championships first began, the realization that most physical altercations do end up on the ground. And they're going to be finished one of three ways. Ground and pound is still number one. Ball up your fist, much like a club, and bludgeon your opponent somewhere around the head, neck, and face area. Number two is a chokehold. Number three is an armbar. I tell people, I go, don't believe me, just look at the stats. The stats speak for themselves. I go, that's what you look at any sport. They always talk about baseball. They talk about the stats of how this batter will face up against a left-hander versus a right-hander versus this and that. So I just look at the stats of things and kind of work from there. But I call it, common sense. But common sense is not very common anymore.
And I don't know if you've been following the wrestling news, but WWE, due to the lockdown, released a bunch of wrestlers about a month ago, including Cain Velasquez, who was reportedly signed to a $5 million a year contract. However, I guess they only really used him for one match, which was a short match against Brock Lesnar in Saudi Arabia, and he made a house show appearance in Mexico. What are your thoughts on them releasing Cain Velasquez so soon?
Well, I mean, it's I think a lot of industries are sort of in that unknown phase. They just didn't know what's going to happen to the future because they're looking at like look at all sports. They need the attendance, the people that come out to those stadiums. Um, football, basketball, baseball, hockey. I mean, the list goes on. Then you have your professional wrestling, anything that goes indoors, outdoors. People, that's what they thrive upon. It's only been just recently that between UFC and WWE, that I think they're the first two industries simply to go forward and run events without the audience, and now others are looking to follow in suit. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the status on that. As for letting people go, again, that's kind of like that great unknown. Yeah, every year, WWE lets a number of the talent go for various reasons. This could be like, gosh, we don't know if we're ever going to be running a show again. And if we do run a show again, underneath what aspects, and we need to cut some overhead out of it. I did not know Cain was had signed to that kind of a figurator. That's quite a great deal there for him. Sorry to see it end so quickly. He comes from my alma mater, Arizona State University. So it's I hope that he finds something else that will help fill that niche for him.
Do you think his MMA career is pretty much over at this point, or do you think he could potentially have a few more fights and do okay?
Well, honestly, I really don't. How old is Cain? Do you
I
know
think
offhand?
he's in his late 30s.
Okay.
I know he has a bunch of injuries, though. The
Well, I
injuries
mean,
might be one of the reasons why they released him from WWE.
oh, okay. Well, yeah. There's you know, the aging. I was just saying the aging athlete. That I mean, when you say it like a number like 37, I go, okay, well, gee, that's when I just started my MMA career. So, but
Yeah.
it wasn't even known as MMA. It was known as NHB, no holds barred, because the rule structure is so much more different than what it is today. Today's uh, a competitor competes underneath it's either 47 or 40, between 47 and 49 rules, weight classes, time periods, and back then during the no bar, it only had the two rules of no biting, no eye gouging, and that was it. No time limits, one round, and you basically went until complete victory. I mean, your opponent was unconscious, whether you choked them out, knocked them out, your corner could throw a towel in. It was a very unique concept and came underneath a great deal of scrutiny, nevertheless, as well. But again, talk about Cain. I just hope that he has other things to fall back on because that at 37 he's a very young man. There's a lot more to life than just that little bit right there. So I
And
just simply say I wish the best of luck for him.
have you seen Jack Swagger's Bellator matches at all?
No, no. I mean it's. I'm kind of like a hermit in some ways, there, Devin, where I just don't watch a lot of television. I'll watch a video here or there as it comes about. I watch, like, people say, do you watch Ultimate Fighting Championship? Well, I never did in the beginning. I still don't even now. Every now and then I will go to a UFC show in Vegas if I happen to be in Phoenix, not that far away, and I have there might be a match that I'm really intrigued with. But via the internet, I'm always able to watch a match here, a match there. Time. I keep coming back to the word called time because it's I have so many different things that I enjoy doing. I keep running out of time on a daily basis. My days start off really early and come about that around that 11 o'clock time frame. I start trying to shut it down, trying to know that I'm asleep by hopefully by midnight, and then I start all over again by 6 a.m. the following morning. So I ride out about 6 hours of sleep, and I put in 18 hours in 18-hour days. And usually, as my days come to an end, it's kind of like going, I want another 18 hours. But that's because I truly enjoy. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the lifestyle I have kind of carved out for myself. Um, and I just, there's a whole lot more things I want to do. It's kind of like, I would have never thought I'd be living on an island property. I mean, I think that's something that kind of intrigues people. That romantic aspect of, oh gosh, over there, deserted island, having coconuts and stuff like that. Well, obviously in the state of Michigan, we don't grow coconut trees, so that won't ever happen. But it's just kind of unique property that to acquire. And I have a place out in Arizona. I have a place down in Coldwater, Michigan. My goal is here in Michigan is to reopen the training facility when the governor gives the thumbs up, and I'll keep doing that for a couple of days a week down in Coldwater. I'll come out here the rest of the time, just keep on the construction road of what has to be done here before winter comes on in, because when winter comes in, for a certain time period, the property is not accessible unless the ice hardens to a certain degree, and then you can come over on a snowmobile or walk across. But I don't know if I feel too safe. I don't care for the cold water that much.
Now, I'm sure you probably have not seen the Dark Side of the Ring documentary on the Brawl for All, but they did mention in that documentary that was very widely viewed that you pulled out of the Brawl for All. Could you address that? Because I know
Oh,
you
no,
told.
no, 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 no. The road agents brought in all the talent into the cafeteria room. And so they were talking about, they wanted to first talk about the concept of this brawl for all. And they said that the only two athletes that would not be allowed to be in the brawl for all was Ken Shamrock and myself. And as soon as they said that they made that announcement, I just asked one of the road agents, I go, well, do I need to sit in here? Do I need to sit in there and listen to the rest of the thing? No. I just lost you, didn't I?
No, it's still going.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, just said low. Okay, about to close out. Okay, and he said no, and he said so I left, and it wasn't until a couple weeks into this brawl for all that one of the road agents comes up to me, because I was just kind of sitting around waiting to see if I was going to be on that card for the night or not. Um, And the one road agent comes up, he said, Dan, he goes, how would you like to be in the brawl for all there tonight? I go, against who and how much? Gives me a price tag, gives me the date. I said, sure. I said, but I don't want to wear any boxing gloves. He says, oh, you gotta wear the boxing gloves. And those are just one of those moments. It turned out it was the Godfather. They gave me a nice little price tag there to go do the match against the Godfather. And to me, it was a lackluster match. He really didn't do anything to me at all. I was able to tie him up, take him down, um, and really that was about the gist of the match. Had I been able to go out there without any boxing gloves on whatsoever, I would have been able to maybe pull off a nice little lateral drop or something like that, or maybe a headlock, hip toss. But the boxing gloves really kind of were these 18-ounce gloves that just really kind of impeded your ability. So it the brawl for all, it was a concept to really to launch a man's career. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and it turned out to be a bust because of the reality of things. Bart got
So,
knocking him out.
so just to be clear, you did not drop out of the Brawl for
No,
All.
no, no. I never dropped out. I wasn't even supposed to be in the brawl for all in the first place when they made the announcement. Ken Shamrock and I were the only two people who weren't supposed to be in the brawl for all at all, even in the beginning. And then somewhere along the way, again, a lot of it, Devin, I really think that a lot of it boils down to you just had some mucky mucks sitting around, drinking, smoking a cigar, and bullshitting each other is all they were doing as to who they thought were tougher. And then they came up with this concept, and the whole concept really it backfired and did not serve the purpose of what they're looking for. So
We
that's the
heard,
sad part. To me, it's like when you have people, executives, playing the chess, and the pawns are the talent themselves.
so what did they tell you when they took you out?
Oh, I mean, it didn't really tell me anything. It just basically, when at the match, first off, I'm being surprised the fact that I was being put in,
Yeah.
and as soon as I walk back through the curtain again, the same road agent comes up and goes, "Well, you're back out again." I'm thinking now, why did that go like that? To me, it's like I learned real quick. Don't question the wacky world of professional wrestling because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Do you remember who that road agent was?
No, not right offhand. No, no.
And Butterbean stated in that Brawl for All documentary that he felt WWE fed Bart Gunn to him as punishment because they wanted Steve Williams to win. I don't know if I buy that. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I've met Butterbean. Butterbean's he's a good jovial type individual. I really enjoyed being around him. Um, I, I, I don't try to read anything into it whatsoever. I just, Butterbean's a very powerful individual. I mean, he's built like a Sherman tank.
How would you have done against Butterbean? Final question for the Brawl for All.
Ah, not good in the boxing match. I would have been trying to take him down or clinch him as quickly as I possibly can. So yeah, don't know how that would have worked because he was really good at throwing body punches, throwing knockouts, just the way he could pivot, and now he's got that 400 pound punch. Or I should say that 400 pound body behind that punch. Yes.
So, how do you think the Brawl for All would have gone if you had been able to continue?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'll just put it like this. I go, what my weekend is my stand. I always tell that to people, but my grappling area is my strength. You still have to be within arm's reach in order to land a punch on me, and I've always been very good at avoiding being hit. So I think I would have done again just based on my slash NHP. I mean, the reality is there's only 4 people in the world that have over 100 cage fights. I'm one of the 4. There's only 3 in the world that have over 100 victories. I'm one of the 3. And the ironic part is I faced the other 3. I defeated the other 3. Closest one to my age is 15 years my junior. So to me, it's like going, there's a lot of people that want to claim themselves as the GOAT of the industry. I'm not trying to claim it. I think the facts speak for itself. That's how I look at things. You might have someone that has come along that is extremely talented for a very short reign, but where's the longevity? Where's the durability? There's a lot of people that can go out there and just 1 or 2 seasons and do very well for themselves, but then due to injuries or or there's a lot of champions that they live by the sword, they die by the sword. Everyone likes to see it. Everyone loves to see a slobber knocker of a MMA match. But I guarantee you, nobody wants to be in that slobber knocker of a match.
Right. And I know you keep in touch with Don Frye. How is he doing these days?
Much better. I mean, he's last year I think he spent more time inside of hospitals and rehab centers than he was outside. I'm happy to report that this year he's spent more time outside. So that's actually really good. The reality is, will he ever be the Don Frye? Yes, no, but then neither will Dan Severn. The aging process of moving forward. Don Frye I think he should just count his lucky stars that he's still alive, because he has died on the operating table and they had to revive him. So he should be happy that he is alive. He should be happy that he has a life to move on. And you know, he was one of my wrestlers when I was a coach at Arizona State University. So he actually lived with a couple of my younger brothers, and so I know Don like a brother. So I will continue to help and look out and try to teach him some of the things that I do. So there's other things that I will be looking to do here relatively shortly. I'll say next 60, 90 days. I've got a couple more irons in the fire that should start coming to fruition. And when that happens, I'm definitely thinking about people like Don Frye or even Mark Coleman. I mean, helped out Mark a great deal, and then taught him some things what to do, and he's picked up more work. So he's actually very appreciative of how I've been able to guide him. But I always tell people, I've been a teacher most of my life. I started teaching sport of amateur wrestling when I was in ninth grade. Is when I first started teaching amateur wrestling, and I've had that teaching principles throughout the rest of my life. I have a teaching degree from Arizona State University. Now, granted, that is in industrial arts, so I'm Mr. Severn. Your shop teacher is really who I am. So, but I think it carries over in a lot of things that I do, how I conduct myself.
Any memories of when you were refereeing the dungeon match between Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart for that WWE pay-per-view?
Well, I mean, I think the part I really enjoyed the most was actually in the preparation period of time. I'm upstairs and I'm sitting inside of the Hart home, the Hart resident itself, and I'm in there with Stu Hart. So I had a chance to interact with Stu a great deal. I guess some people must have told him a little bit about my background, because he was asking me about my shooter background, and from what I found out, Stu was really big into shooters, and he even taught all of his own sons how to shoot first before they became wrestlers. So there was I had a very enjoyable conversation with Stu, and it was just a few weeks later that Owen, I met up with Owen again at one of the other WWF shows, and Owen said, "Here, my dad wanted me to give you this." It was an Owen Hart T-shirt. Stu Hart did not have a T-shirt made, but it was an Owen Hart T-shirt, and Stu Hart had put his autograph, and he wanted me to have it. So I thought that was a very appreciative type gift.
Were you wrestling on the card the night that Owen passed away?
No, I was not there that night, so it was yeah, no, I was not there that night, but I had people contacted me the very next day wanting to get my feedback on it, and that's just one of those unfortunate tragedies. Uh, it's hard to say what went wrong. There's all kinds of speculations of his. He might not have been harnessed at all. He might that his cape might have got somehow entangled into this harness system and released the mechanism prematurely. So it's hard to say as to what really went wrong that night. The end result is the fact that a young man that had a lot more of his career to go is no longer here.
Are you disappointed that WWE never had you feud with Ken Shamrock? Because a lot of fans wanted to see that. on WWE when you guys first joined?
Yeah, it was. I mean, well, I think that was the whole premise of why Ken was hired and why I was hired was, there's this novelty of the trifecta. You know, Ken won a match, I won a match. It's kind of like this. This is that tiebreaker. So, there's an opportunity there to capitalize on it. And let's face it, WWE was really good about seeing things in the media and being able to capitalize on that kind of stuff. So I'll say it was a missed opportunity on their part. Also, I'll say even on my own part, having never worked for a company quite like that, I did not actually realize how much input I could have had in on my the direction that I would like to have gone. It was, a learning curve that I never ever realized. So that's what I say that if things were differently, I would have been still there. It's doing something different today.
What do you think about Shamrock saying he wants to challenge Mike Tyson now in a boxing match? Is that just him trying to get a payday off of something like that?
Well, uh, I've seen again, I've seen some different clips of Mike in his training. He's still a pretty scary cat. But the combinations that he can throw, he's got some great bobbing and weaving that he's still at a person of his age for the sport because it all depends upon the sport. He's by no means the average whatsoever. I mean, he was a very incredible athlete, and most of his matches, if you by the time the bell rang, if you went to set your beverage down and look back up, his match was done. That's how quickly he was knocking people out. Um, Anybody can call out a person. What for whatever reasons I couldn't tell you if it's good, bad, or different. I don't think that would be a good move for Ken to do a boxing match with Mike Tyson by any means.
Would you consider fighting Ken again if it was a drug tested event, or are you completely finished with MMA now?
No, I mean, I still would consider whether it's a Ken Shamrock or even others. The hard part, and then even I mean, this I already went through the process once. Uh, I basically retired as of January 2013, and when I retired at that point in time, I retired with a clause, and that clause was I would seriously contemplate coming back out of retirement if one or three people, and I went right down the line of Mark Coleman, Ken Shamrock, and a Hoist Gracie. If one of those three people would ever have stepped up to a plate, well, then, basically about a year and a half after the fact, there was a company that did step up to the plate, and they said you had some interest. And all I know is that throughout my career, I only ever did two training camps, two true training camps, once for 32 days, once for 35 days. The rest of the time, I just basically just showed up. I mean, I was running classes and stuff like that. I always participated in my classes as long as there was an odd number because I was the guy that always filled in and would rotate through people. But, when you look at a lot of these UFC fighters today, they know they have their match. They're doing training camp 6, 8 months out before they're actually competing. And to me, it's like going, well, I did one for 32 days, I did one for 35 days, and that was about it. The comical one was, I go, because technically speaking, there was a third one, but that was for UFC number 4. My very first one, I spent 5 days, an hour and a half a day in Lima, Ohio with Al Snow and a couple other professionals and proteges. So I really don't count that one because that was almost like sheer comedy that took place. But I would seriously contemplate, you know, doing one more match. But the hard part is, even when I did this back in 2000, and I think it was probably 15 or 16, that this group did approach me, and at that time, because the match was going to be held in the state of Arizona, I had to go through a lot of additional tests just because of my age, EKG, uh, stress tests, and a few other things. In the final analogy, I had to stand there before 6 different athletic commissioners, and I was cross-examined because they wanted to. They did do their due diligence back work. They wanted to. I mean, they looked into my background to see was I a down and out uh, athlete that needed the money. Did I need this or that? And so the reality is, I mean, they said, why? I mean, it really just boiled down to was, why do you want to do this? And well, I said, I'm not looking to go against any kind of young buck up and comer. I'm looking at, uh, I'm looking at someone that is roughly in my same age category, and we have had a history of a couple of previous matches. So I said, I'm not looking for nothing outrageous. I said, just kind of like fill in maybe one more chapter uh, to the whole trilogy here. So I mean, they cleared me, and it was the whole thing was moving forward, and then basically the monkey wrench that hit the system is Ken pulled out 9 days before. So
And you refereed at UFC 24. How did that come about? I know it was just some preliminary matches, but it's unusual for an active fighter to step in there as a referee.
well, I mean, it's I again being around this industry for as long as I have had been during the no holds barred era, you still had to have referees. There were no judges at that point in time. Um, I wasn't really running pro level events. I was running amateur level events, and so I did I did teach guys how to referee. I did teach guys how to judge. It was 2 winters back that the state of Arizona athletic commissioner contacted me to see if I was going to be in town at a certain time period. And if I was, he wanted me to speak to all of the various state athletic commissioners. And I might go, well, what do you want me to speak to them about? And he said, well, basically, you're that guy that has been around and has seen the industry all the way through and then has lived through all of the changes. He said, I just want you to speak about that. I said, well, I could do that. But as I was there talking to them, it really surprised me out of well, I should say, I told the gentleman, I said, well, I told party, I said, as my fee, and his eyes got big. I said, no, I said, it's not going to cost you any money. I go, I want to go through both classes. He goes, what? I said, I want to go through the class for being a MMA referee and a MMA judge. He goes, why would you want to do that? And I said, well, I've taught people how to judge. I've taught people how to be a referee, but that was going all the way back in that no holds barred industry. And I go, I ran predominantly amateur level type events. I did have rules and regulations in place. I did have time limits put into place. And it was, and if anyone's going to ever err, always err outside of safety for the athletes. So, I mean, he was shocked. He just said, sure. So, as I, so these 2 classes led up before I had my little speech there with the athletic commissioner. So, on 2 different days, there were over 400 people in each of these classes. And at the beginning of each class, they wanted you to stand up, state your name, where you are from, your state, and what is your affiliation with the sport. Are you a competitor? Are you a fan? Do you train in it? And it shocked me, out of 400 people both days, I think there were 2 or 3 competitors all together. And so on day 3, when I'm speaking to the various athletic commissioners, as I walked in, I came in about a half hour early, and at that point in time, they were in a very heated debate as to what constituted a downed athlete. Is it 3 points down? Is it 4 points down? Is it 3 points down brainweight? Is it 4 points down brainweight? And then they were bringing up John Jones. That John Jones a lot of times will put down 3 or 4 points, and before starting matches. And so what? I mean, when I say very heated, very heated, I was kind of surprised how uh, people were kind of lashing back and forth, and the president stepped up and said, let's take about a 15-minute break, come on back, and we'll listen to Dan Severn, and then we'll go back to this uh, debate that they're going to. So now I'm thinking to myself, great, I have to speak to a hostile crowd. They all come back in. They played a nice little video montage for me. And I'm thinking, how can I get a little crack of a smile out of these guys? I go, well, folks, out of all that video montage, I go, how many of the moves that you just saw there that I conducted that would be considered illegal in today's mixed martial arts rules? They all kind of giggled right there because most of them, because you're not allowed to throw a 12, what's known as 12 to 6 spiking of an elbow, and suplexes that I was throwing people on their head. So, or throwing knees to a downed opponent's head. But then I went right into, I couldn't help but notice the very passionate debate that was taking place when I first arrived, and about what constitutes a downed athlete. 3 points, 4 points, 3 points fair weight, 4 points fair weight. I go right inside this room right here. You have some of the most talented referees. You got most recognizable from day one, Big John McCarthy standing right here. Let me just give you a quick analogy. The difference of how an athlete thinks versus non-athletes. I go, Big John's inside the ring. I'm inside the ring. My opponent's inside the ring. Right? If Big John turns to my opponent, are you ready? He turns to me, are you ready? And we both nod our head. Yeah, Big John hits his classic line low, let's get it on. And then I would drop down to all 4-point stance. I will do the fastest bear crawl he ever saw come across that cage floor, knowing that at all times I will have either 3 points or 4 points, bearing some sort of weight, because that's the only way you can go across on a bear crawl, would slam into my opponent's legs, be able to either take him down, clinch him, or at least I would be up and snug into him, to where now I'm where I want to be. And all the athletic commissioners are looking at each other, and they just couldn't believe that analogy I just gave. And Big John McCarthy just comes up to the microphone. He goes, "That's why he's known as Dan to be Severn." He goes, "Dan is that guy that as we were coming up with rules, he said that when Big John would come up to me, he goes, okay, how do you beat this rule?" I go, give me about 10, 15 minutes, John. I'll have an answer for you. Because that's what it was. There's only 3 or 4 athletes that were at these different at this judging and refereeing, and it really, because like I said, an athlete thinks a lot differently.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit.
Okay, try to move back around. I mean, as before, well, I don't know. It's where I kind of had you before. We'll see if that works out any better.
It's still a little fuzzy, but it's starting to clear. Okay, now it's clearing up a little bit. And what did you think of CM Punk as a fighter, if you caught either of his 2 fights?
Well, I caught, I guess, the aftermath, because people are good about sharing that kind of stuff back out on the internet. So yeah, they were pretty short lived, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. I mean, I don't know what his background was before. If he was, training in anything, if he had a background in, boxing, kickboxing, or jujitsu, or anything like that. But it's professional wrestling allows you to make all sorts of claims of what your background really is, the reality is, are you able to pull the trigger on things? That's all.
And Mike G had two questions for you. He's a big fan of yours. He wanted to know if you think the fight between Ken Shamrock and Kimbo Slice was fixed, and if you've ever participated in an MMA fight that was had a predetermined outcome. We know those have happened over the years here and there with
Right.
some companies.
No, it's now talking about. I mean, well, the Kimbo Slice match, Ken Shamrock match. Uh, well, I mean that would actually kind of sticks in my craw there just a little bit, because that was supposed to be taking place the same weekend that Ken Shamrock and my match took place. So that sort of upsets me, uh, because, like I said, I'm the guy that had to bring that to the attention to the company that was trying to put together Ken Shamrock and myself. And uh, Ken was so bold. He even said that I'll fight I'll fight Kimbo Slice on a Friday night, and I'll fight Dan Severn on a Saturday. Does Dan Severn have any problem with that? I'm going, no, I don't have. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking that was sorry, wrong match. That was Ken Shamrock versus Hoist Gracie on that particular night. So sorry about that one. So, but yeah, the Kimbo Slice match. I mean, I watched it, and yeah, what can I say about it? It's those are that was a match I wanted to do there as well. I would have done a match with a Kimbo Slice, but obviously, those opportunities are gone. Um, I really don't know what to say about that there, Devin. It just it wasn't a lot of it just did not live up to the hype. Just much like with the Hoist Gracie Ken Shamrock match, and that did not live up to the hype whatsoever. Uh, and that was just to go back to that for a moment. Uh, Ken had agreed to do a match with me. At the last second, he takes a match with Hoist Gracie for Bellator, same company we were talking about, and I'm the guy that actually had to bring it back to the company that was trying to put together the Shamrock Severn match, and then Ken he was so bold. He said, "I'll fight Kimbo Slice on a Friday night and fight Dan Severn on a Sunday night." And I'm thinking, you know, I told the company, I go, if Ken so much as gets a hangnail in between those two, between that Kimbo Slice, Hoist Gracie match, I go, there'll be a bare bones minimum of a 30-day suspension. I said, if you better move the match back by a minimum of 31, 32 days. And basically that's eventually what they ended up doing. It's just, just a big waste of time. Something that, again, I don't like to waste. It was the best training camp I had ever done in my life, ever done. I was down to 200, and I think I was down to 237 pounds. I mean, I hadn't seen 237 pounds in the last decade. My cardiovascular was off the hook, and again, I'll say I kind of look somewhat like I do right now, except I had a full beard. Hair was completely white at that time, because I always tell people, I said, the reality is I've been coloring my hair since I've been 27 years of age. First started with the beard, and then I had to go more and more real estate, because more and more gray kept popping on in. But it's the funny part about it is, at different gyms that I was doing my different workouts at, more and more people started to gather. They started seeing the pattern of times that I was coming to these gyms, and more people started showing up at different times. And they were like, "Who's this? Who's this Santa Claus looking old fart over there? The guy just doesn't stop. He just keeps on going and going and going." So that was I got a kick out of it.
Did you ever amateur wrestle Dr. Death, Steve Williams in your career?
Yes, I did. Actually, and he beat me.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it was I don't remember where it was, but yes, we did encounter each other, and well, I know it was actually it was my senior year, so my junior year in college. I had suffered several little neck injuries to where I decided to move up to the heavyweight weight class. The reason I said to go up to the heavyweight weight classes was because heavyweights don't move around near as quickly as what the 190 pounders do, and I was trying to do something to where I could protect myself a little bit better. Uh, but the heavyweight weight class was still not regulated. You can weigh anything as long as you weighed a bare bones minimum of 175 pounds. And there were still heavyweights that were in excess of 400 pounds. And I ended up wrestling Dr. Death. I just remember I shot in, and as I shot in, he stuffed me. In the process of stuffing me, um, I I kicked my neck in such a way that I just felt that like a bolt of lightning go down my spine and stuff like that, to where literally I couldn't do anything. I mean, he just flopped me over, and that was it. I actually laid on the mat there for quite some time there, and doc stuff like that, check me out. So I'll just say I took some. That's why I did take some time off from the sport of amateur wrestling, and I thought maybe I might be done. So, just like you talked earlier on in the conversation here, you about Cain Velasquez, injuries do take their toll. Some people are able to come back, or they're able to modify uh, what they're able to do to a different degree. So,
And this is a quick question from Samuel Gates. He's from Coldwater, and he says, which burger joint is better, Midway Burger or Willow Burger?
see now, I've never had the burgers at Midway. So Midway is a bowling alley. Uh, but I've never had the burger there. I would have almost, there's the nice part during the summertime, there is an actual root beer stand that I frequent, with some of my kids at different times that I've gone to. And for life me, I've drawn a blank on, but it's only open during the spring, summer, fall, and then shuts out for wintertime. But that's the place I'd be talking about.
And the last dragon wanted me to ask you if you ever had any heat with another wrestler backstage in WWE.
No, no, I pretty much stayed to myself. Um, you know, the they wanted you to arrive on location so many hours before. I kept thinking why she had to arrive at a building around somewhere between noon and I don't know, noon and 1 or noon and 2 to arrive there for a show that doesn't start until like 7:30 that evening. I think, man, that's just way too early. Well, I kind of learned after a while why they did do it like that. Um, the industry is called professional wrestling. There's a lot of guys that don't conduct themselves in a very professional manner whatsoever. Um, After I kind of watched it for a little bit, I going, this company is nothing more than a big babysitting company, is what it is for a band of derelicts. It's they had people on staff there to where if you lost your outfit, they had a couple of seamstresses that could whip up the exact identical costume in a very short period of time. They had people that could dust the circles out from underneath your eyes from your all night bender, sober you up, color your hair. They could do everything except wrestle the match for you. And even then, if it was a Tuesday night taping, they could edit it in a way that they could make you look probably as good as they possibly could. So it really surprised me, um, the level of. I mean, this. I don't think that a lot of these guys realize the kind of payday that they were receiving for very little work. Now, I mean, it's tough being on the road 187 days a year, yes. Um, and a lot of them are not all that organized, or they start hanging out with some of the more older veterans, and they think that they could ride their coattails the same way. But it's I don't know. Like I said, I stayed pretty much by myself. I traveled by myself. Um, I mean, there were a number of wrestlers that I always got along with, but I was always an observer of people. I kind of sit back quietly, just sit back. I just watch things happen because there's good and bad in almost anything and everything. And I just kind of watch out, just kind of stand back just to watch what's really happening. And like I said, Jim Cornette came up to me at one time when I was sitting in the cafeteria there. And I had my business planner. Even now, as I talk to you, I talk about my business planner. I just reached over here desk. I still even have my business planner here with me right now. I was working on a few things before we started the interview here to see what I was going to be trying to do here afterwards. A lot of it was going to be dependent on the weather, whether I was going to be heading into town, do a few more things, and still I'll probably be headed to town, do a few more things because it's right now on this island property, getting a proper internet signal here is what I'm looking to try to do. That and maybe a satellite dish. Although it's kind of like going. I'm not real keen on watching television. To me, I'd rather be working on the property, but I still want to be able to keep all my other industries moving forward, and I do need an internet connection so I can fire up my laptop and keep going with the things I'm doing there. But it's I don't even remember what your original question was there, Devin. I kind
Well, you answered it.
of
It was if you had any backstage heat. But another quick question: Ronda Ronda Rousey recently made some comments saying wrestling's fake and wrestling fans are basically ungrateful for everything she did in wrestling. And I'm just wondering what your comments are about Ronda Rousey kind of crapping on wrestling after she made a bunch of money, not working a full-time schedule, just doing matches here and there in WWE.
yeah. Well, again, when it all depends on when people live. When you leave an industry, and if you leave it on good terms, you're probably going to say good things. If you leave it on bad terms, probably bad things. But I don't know what to say. It's she was really good at what she did in the MMA industry, and I think she had a real opportunity with that industry. I travel. I'll speak just strictly on myself. I travel with two of the most prestigious belts. I travel with the NWA belt, and I travel with UFC belts. Now, when I go to these different fan fests or these comic cons, things of that nature, people that come up there, get just to get pictures with or get things signed by. They see the UFC belts. They're like, man, they love seeing those UFC belts up there. And then they'll see the NWA wrestling. They're like, well, what kind of wrestling is that? And I'll say, well, just like what you see on television with a WCW. I see. Well, when there was a WCW and a WWF, now I guess I had to start putting in a couple other companies out that are doing a good job on the independent scene. Um, and they're like, you beat the fake stuff. I go, well, obviously you recognize these UFC belts. And they'll say, oh yeah, love this stuff. And I'll go, well, why is it that I've been hurt so much more in my professional wrestling career than I have been in my cage fighting career? And they look at me puzzled. I said, well, that's reality. I go, I have had three major careers as an amateur wrestler, a professional wrestler, and as a cage fighter. And the safest thing I've done is cage fight. And they look at me, well, that's got to be impossible. I go, well, the amateur wrestling, just because of sheer numbers of matches, and wrestling internationally, because in international competition, it's a whole different animal as opposed to wrestling domestically. inside the United States, a lot more civilized. But when you're in a former Eastern Bloc country, I was still wrestling during the Cold War era where Russia, they've got nuclear power. The United States has got nuclear power. They're puffing out their chests at each other like two bullies on the block. And I'm just thinking to myself, when you talk to the athletes behind closed doors, it's a whole different picture because the Russians. I've been to Russia, half a dozen different times, and they want the best things for their family, same way as what Americans do, or same way Canadians do. They would just want the best for their families and just to be left alone. Well, it's it's uh it's our governments. Most Russians, they don't like their governments. Well, how many Americans like their government? Same way, how many Canadians like their government? you can simply just look at each one. If the governments would simply bring in more advisors from the real world, people that actually work and do things. But I don't know. Going off onto yet another tangent there, Devin.
And Brett Mitchell wanted me to ask you if you've ever been in a street fight or bar fight. I know you're not the type to hang out at bars, but
No, I did do a lot of appearances at sports bars, things of that nature. I even learned real quickly then to set that time frame up a little earlier in the evening and not later in the evening because after some of the patrons have partaken of too many of those barley pops and that they get a little bit more bragocious and brave there with you. So no, I've never been in a physical altercation. Um, but I always tell people I've never been in a fight in my life, but I have been a competitor my entire life, and that's a whole different cat to deal with because I always look at what are the rules or regulations that you are dealing with, and that's I would have never again, like for example, I would have never pursued a boxing career because I don't possess that skill set. But to be thrown in a no holds barred, I'm thinking, okay, now that you allow me to use my grappling ability, you know, I, I'm game for that. I mean, even to reiterate that the very first time that I was called by the UFC that, hey, you're going to be in UFC number 4. I mean, I did not tell a single family member. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my kids. I didn't tell my brothers or sisters, mother or father. I didn't tell anybody. I basically just I took out 5 days. I lined something up with Al Snow to be able to go over to his Body Slammers gym in Lima, Ohio. That's where his location was at the time, because a professional wrestling ring was the closest thing that I could come to a cage, a confined area. Um, and I trained with Al Snow and a couple other professional wrestling proteges. They had one pair of boxing gloves between the three of them, and they just basically kept rotating where they were trying to punch, kick, and then slap on whatever submissions they could do. But the reality is, having boxing gloves on is kind of tough to throw on the submission locks. So it I just say my training camp was actually, it was comedy is what it was. It was a joke. It was a comedy, and I basically just kept every time that I would kept clinching them, I kept taking them down, or I just slap on wrestling techniques, turn them illegal, make them scream and squawk, and that was my training camp. So I always tell people that I never learned a single punch, I never learned a single submission. When I showed up to UFC number 4, I'm just I have one of the UFC representatives. They're like, okay, well, how much do you weigh? Where do you hail from? What's your height? All this kind of factors. And then the first time ever, I was asked the question, so what's your martial art? I'd never been asked what my martial art is. So I said, well, I'm an American wrestler. And they had never heard that response before. So they leaned forward and they're like, what exactly does that do? And so I kind of lean forward just like them. I kind of look left to right. I'm like I'm about to say the most risque thing in the world. And I'm like going, you might want to watch. I'm kind of making this up as I go. So yeah, the reality was I was making up on the fly there because I had never been involved in a, fisticuffs like this. So
And what's your opinion on? Oh, is this? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Okay, the screen was just acting a little weird. I was just wondering what your opinion is on Fight Island, which I guess we know now is going to be in Abu Dhabi.
Well, it was funny when that was first being announced by Dana White. Um, I had a gentleman that contacted me for an interview, and as he's talked to me, he asked me that same question. And what I came back with was, well, I'd be like, well, Devin, I don't know if I'm really at liberty to say. And he was like, oh, well, what do you mean? I said, well, yours truly just recently purchased an island. And now he's like, no, you're hosting the UFC on your island. I said I'm not at liberty to say. So I had a lot of fun at the expense of the interviewer. So I don't know whatever came of that, but it was just have just a fun day. That's all.
Do you follow UFC much still?
I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, it's. I mean, Dev, you've known me for a number of years now. Um, I mean, I've had some people say that I'm the busiest person that they've ever met. I don't look really upon it that way. It's not like I'm trying to set that goal. I do a lot of different things. Um, I look at a lot of people lose a great deal of their life because they sit on the sidelines and they will watch life pass them by. And there are those that are going to engage the game. I always tell people that I do want to write a couple more books. I have one book out so far, but it's to me it's like going, it's okay. It's an easy read type of thing there, but it doesn't really go into more the mindset and things of that nature and travel and competition in different countries. There's I think I could write a complete storybook of being on the road here, amateur wrestling this, Greco-Roman wrestling that, freestyle wrestling this, being in the Mongolia, Bulgaria, Russia, being in these different countries during the Cold War era and competing and having some of the wacky things that have happened. And I hope to get around to doing something like that a little bit later in life. Um, so I always say that who knows, I might be out there writing books on an island here somewhere down the road.
I'm sure you've seen Francis Ngannou as a heavyweight. I'm sure you may have seen some clips of him. There's some talk
Oh,
that John Jones might fight him. Thoughts on that?
well, I mean that would be a great. I think that'd be a great matchup. I think a lot of people like to see that. Ngannou just powerful punching power to him. Taking people on out. So I think that that would be an interesting one. John Jones has, you got to look at his body type of that. He's got a really long reach, creative. When he was throwing those spinning back elbows, no one could do it better than what he was doing. Spinning back elbows, spinning back fists. Um, that would be interesting. I'll leave it at that. That would be a very interesting matchup to see happen. Probably one that if it was happening in Vegas, be one of those ones that I'd probably be trying to make.
What advice would you give John Jones? He seems to still be getting in trouble. I mean, the last interview I talked to you in 2018, he was in trouble then, and he just had another DWI issue, I guess.
I John Jones is his own worst enemy. That's all I can really say. I there's really no advice I can give him. He's a grown ass man. He knows better. He just doesn't do better. So there's not much I can say. There's comes a point in time you just gotta let it go. That that's all I can say about that one.
And for Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic, they're saying it's going to happen before the end of the year. who would you choose in that one?
You know, Kobe, I like. You know, as long as he puts in a good training camp, I would go with Kobe. Yeah, no real reason for him saying that, but it's I've liked the way he's always been a hard worker. He's always kind of persevered, so I'd go with him.
Do you think WWE is ever going to put you in the Hall of Fame as being one of the first MMA fighters to actually participate in WWE after UFC?
I don't know, and I'm not losing any sleep over it. Now, should I be in the Hall of Fame? Well, I see some of the people that they have put in there. Based upon some people they have put in there, I go, oh, I deserve, I deserve to be put in there. But again, I'm not a very good politician there, Devin. I always tell people there's a big difference between a politician is an ass kisser and I'm an ass kicker, and that's a whole different it's a different opposite sides of the fence there. So I couldn't tell you that one.
A lot of people really liked your WWE theme music, and they wanted me to ask you what you thought of it and also what type of music you listen to.
Well, no, I thought they did a good job on it. I mean, did they didn't ask any of my opinion whatsoever. I mean, when they came up with it, they just brought that together, and I really enjoyed it. What kind of music do I listen to? Well, it depends on the mood. I'm still a classic rock and roller. Um, yeah, this classic rock and roll really is where I'm at still. It's I'll do it. All depends. Like during workouts stuff like that, I like to have some a little bit more hard rock and roll kind of going there at times. It kind of helps just keeps you motivated. You know, like
Did you
my training facility, you know, a lot of these guys they got rap songs, and I'm not as that rap, but the thing though about I just don't like all the I just don't like all the profanity that gets woven into a lot of rap songs. So there's certain aspects that's okay, but then that's any music that has f bomb this, f bomb that, it's kind of going because I kind of practice what I preach. I don't curse a lot myself, um, and I don't want to have the music being played because I run kids classes as well. I don't want moms or dads coming into a class and as well as an adult class might be finished up and the kids class coming up and they're hearing f bomb this and whatever that and just this language. It's same way on clothing. My guys know that they can't wear shows shirts to my practices that have profanity or promote alcohol and things of that nature. Because it's not that I'm trying to be a prude. It's just that I believe a certain way that you should conduct yourself. My instructors always had to show up, you know, somewhat trimmed up, shaved and stuff like that. Not looking like they just, been on a 3-day bender.
Now, did you ever get the chance to work out with Thesz or Karl Gotch when you were over in Japan?
No, I basically, that's where I met both, um, like I said, Beatty Lou and Billy Robinson. Really, are the two people I met with that organization that I was going over there primarily for. But Lou, I mean, he showed me a couple of techniques. Things, but Lou was already getting up there pretty good in age wise. Same way with Billy Robinson. They would show me a couple of types of techniques and show a couple of things that they would do in workouts because they saw how I was kind of like that machine that would go from one thing to the next to the next. And they liked the mechanics that I was putting together. But never really had the opportunity of meeting the Karl Gotch though.
And Brian Briggs wanted me to ask you if you would ever consider testosterone replacement therapy.
I mean, now at because I don't think I will be involved in really any kind of athletics at this point in time. I'm looking at my overall health. So, um, I would consider aspects of that now because I know, like, for example, my testosterone level has got to be in the dumpster. So I would think that just to have a more quality of life, a longevity of life, I would probably look at to see what testosterone or I mean just have some blood work done just to see where a few different things are at, and I'll probably do that. I don't know if that'll happen during the course of this year or by next year, but I'll probably do something like that. And I will probably do some type of testosterone replacement just to see what does it really do for me. But to me, I look at that. I'm doing that for my health and my well-being. I'm not doing that to get the edge on an opponent by any means. My opponent is Father Time. That's my opponent.
And what's the craziest experience you've had on the independent wrestling scene? We both know some of those shows can be a little out there sometimes.
Well, I witnessed something that down in one of the southern states. I can't remember if this was down in Tennessee, Kentucky, or where exactly this took place. First time I ever saw a leather strap match where literally, I think one, two, three, four, eight of the fans were given an actual leather strap, and they're all outside the ring. And the two wrestlers that were inside the ring, if you got tossed out of the ring, these fans were literally able to beat you with this leather strap. And both these guys kind of wore heavier garments, and I felt sorry for this for one of these wrestlers because this gal, she was a good sized gal, probably she probably tipped the scales well over 400 pounds. She grabbed a hold of his jersey and she was whooping that strap on him. I'm thinking, I don't think this important. This poor guy's going to make it out of here alive. But that was one of the craziest things I ever saw was an actual leather strap match and fans participation.
That's hilarious. And a bunch of fans wanted me to ask you, what are some of the keys to staying in such good health as they grow older, since you've done a great job of drinking from the fountain of youth, you could say.
Well, well, hopefully we do that. We'll do another interview, and I'll have all of this. This will all be gone, and it'll be all colored back to the normal Dan Severn type of phase. But you know, I've been lucky, I'll say, in certain aspects because I have had injuries. Um, and I've been able to come back from them. I mean, I actually thought I was going to be done at one point, especially with when I had my neck injury. I thought I was going to be done there. I've had 4 knee operations. I thought I was going to be done there. Um, Recently, when I say recently, within the last uh, 2 years or less, I have had stem cell shots, and that has worked a wonder for both knees. To where literally I back to, I'll say, like a light jog. I could actually jump rope to a certain extent there once again. To where I mean, there was one point that that was really being restricted. So I really believe in stem cells. I believe in CBD oil. I believe in there's a lot of natural things that we could be doing versus simply just going to a hip replacement, knee replacement, invasive surgeries where you just will never be quite the same.
What's the name of the stem cell place where you had your work done?
Well, right now it's I mean, if people want to contact me just through via my email address dan@dansever.com, that might be the best way of doing that for right now. This company's changed up a little bit, and I want to make certain that I'm giving the right people credit for where credit is due.
And is there any special diet that you've kept over the years?
Not necessarily. I mean, other than I mean, I've ballooned up at different times of my during my career itself. I've been as high as 200. I broke 290 pounds at one point in time. I was a heavyweight wrestler at that time, and I mean, I was eating a lot. I mean, but I was working out like an animal. Now, granted, um, my wardrobe was predominantly stretchy pants at that point, athletic gear. But now I mean it's now I'm probably right around that 235, 240 range is where I'm probably sitting at right now. And my goal is drop over the course of the next couple of years, I want to drop about another 15, 20 pounds to get down to around that 220-pound range. Again, just for longevity's sake, because the big, heavy mastodons, they don't last in this world. It's those leaner, lighter creatures. And so it's kind of like going, that's what I'm just slowly trying to do. I don't do anything crazy or erratically. I just kind of just slowly just try not to eat late at night. And that, but most Americans, that's our kiss of death. Um, we tend to eat quite a bit late at night, and then there's no physical activity. The activity is working your thumb on a remote control, and always really was what you're doing. And so, I'm up early. I'll eat probably one of my bigger meals between either breakfast or lunch, and then and my dinner meal, then it'll be a much lighter meal most of the time.
And last few questions here. Did you have much experience working with Bruce Prichard in WWE?
No, I mean we just interacted just a few different times. I think he just kind of just enjoyed me because I was one of the more older school kind of guys, and just had a lot of different types of moral type of characters to it. So I guess that's really the only thing I could say. He's always kind and
And
whatnot.
what about Vince Russo? I know you're a Jim Cornette guy. Was there
Yeah.
ever any conflict between you and Russo?
No, never really a conflict. They're just things that again, I did not really ever interact with him. I think he was just doing his own thing. I really didn't realize all the power he had at the time and the direction he was moving. It just there's a lot that I just did not understand about how much more control I could have had. I mean, the only control I had is when they're pitching. When I've got some of the road agents that are pitching me this new concept of me having going to the dark side, and I'm gonna have 666 on my forehead, mark of the beast, and a few other things. That's what I basically just said. No, that is not going to happen. I live in small town USA. I'm not going to have any repercussions to my family, nor to my businesses, nor to myself. So I basically just there was no compromise that whatsoever. I just said no, that not going to happen.
Do you have any funny Jim Cornette stories?
I mean, no, I don't think I really have a funny one. Just just being around Jim, watching him. I've watched him in interviews stuff like this. He's very very passionate about the sport of professional wrestling. He's very passionate about storylines. I mean, he's just one of those old school kind of guys. He grew up with it. He loved it. I mean, when you watch him talk about it, you could just see the kid in him come out. I mean, he's very, very, as I said, I used the word already, he's very, very passionate about it. He protects the industry. So, and he's always done a great job by me and being a part of a couple of different things that involved him. So I really enjoyed being around him and his character, and just getting to know him a little more.
And finally, as a coach, you've been a coach for decades now. What would be your best amateur wrestling advice and your best MMA advice you could give fighters potentially watching this interview?
Well, I mean, the bottom line in both industries is simply don't put all your eggs, excuse me, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Especially when it comes to an MMA fighter, you're only as good as your next match, and if someone's got some evil intentions for you, um, it's always good to have options. Knowing that you can do other things. Most athletes, your career is going to be cut short, much shorter than what you'll ever know it to be. I've been just very fortunate to have had the longevity to be involved in sport. I started in seventh grade, 1969, and I'm still on mats today. So not as a competitor, but I'm out there, I'm showing techniques, things of that nature. But at the same token, in the back of my mind, Devin, my next competition streak, if it is going to happen, will be in submission grappling. So the thing is,
Really?
yes. So I look at that. If I was going to go into one more realm of competition, it would be submission grappling. And the thing is, will I have any other types of? Will I have any other competitors? Just want to let you know that my battery did come up. It's redlining, so I don't know how much more juice I have left. But just in case I shut up on you, you'll know why I shut up.
Now, just on the submission grappling, this goes into a fan question. I didn't ask you, but I will ask you since it's related. Is there a submission move that you're really good at that we haven't actually seen in one of your ultimate fights, but you do it a lot in practice and you enjoy working it?
Well, no, I'd still just say like they call it the scarf hold. I mean, that's I've been very good about chokehold finishes. That and key locks. Those are the top two moves that I'd say that I finished most of my MMA matches in, and even in the practice room, the guys all enjoy rolling with me because sky's the limit. I would try anything and everything in practice. And I mean, even up to the point that I'll go into a leg lock. And I very rarely will go for a leg lock. But they just they enjoy rolling with me because they simply know that I'm the safest guy in the world that they'll ever roll with. Um, and yet I'm the safest guy and yet the scariest guy because I think way outside the box. I do put different things together that have not been seen, and a couple of them actually have been known as the Severn choke and things of that nature. To where, I think there's a lot more people have come up with even more techniques. I mean, each person is different in terms of body types. How long people's arms are, things of that nature. But then the competitors, whoever you compete against, also makes a world of difference because there's some guys that they got a tree trunk for a neck, and it's going to be tough to try to choke that neck, especially if they got big old traps and stuff like that through there. So just body types represent different types of opportunities as well.
And where can we follow you on social media if people want to look you up?
Well, I'd still guide everyone just to my website, dansevern.com. And my email address is on there, and my social media outlets are there. They can see various products that they on there. They'll have a difficult time ordering it, but if they do contact me via uh, email, dan@dansevern.com, that'll be the best way of just doing it. But they can see things on my website. The new website, like I said, is very. I can't wait till it gets up because it's stuff that I've never seen before.
Well, I hope that fans might not know this, but I was supposed to go to Phoenix to do an interview with you, but the lockdown happened and you were going to take us on kind of a tour to some of the sites that were important to you.
Yeah.
So I hope we can still do that whenever they reopen these borders. I'm looking forward to that. But any final message to close this off?
No, I mean right now. I mean it's we're coming out of this pandemic. I mean it's I just tell people just to move forward with your life, re-engage it. Um, to more Americans, I'd maybe say stand up for your rights, understand the constitutional rights, stand up, and we need to hold more of these politicians accountable. I simply look. I'll get one more story here. I went to Washington D.C. a number of years back, and I'm being toured all through the House, the Senate, things of this nature. It's all pretty cool. And at the end of it, the person, the tour guide, was asking if there's any questions. No one seemed to be asking any questions. I'm like, going, well, I raised my hand. He says, yes. I says, well, I wanted to know how do I fire my elected official? And he goes, what? He goes, I don't understand. I go, well, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I go, their salary is paid by my taxes. And he says, oh, you're correct. I go, thus, I am their boss. I am not happy with my employees' performances. So, thus, how do I fire my employee? Well, I opened up Pandora's box because I really do feel that about most politicians. They live, they live a very uh, they live a lifestyle that they should not be accustomed to. Even during this pandemic, the fact that there was a raise that went through, and you have people that are unemployed, you have people that are unemployed, and yet there was a raise pushed through there. There's a lot of things that happened through this pandemic that I don't think people realize that went down. But understand your constitution and understand how to make more of these elected officials accountable for their actions. There is power, just need to know how to go after it. And that's probably something that I may get into a little bit more politics as time passes on as well, because I can't stand a lot of our elected officials.
And one last very quick question. Speaking of politics, the Department of Defense in the US recently said that these unidentified aerial phenomenon slash UFOs actually exist out there, not necessarily alien, but there's unusual objects in the sky. That's just a hot topic right now. So I was just wondering your thought on that.
Well, I guess I'm not aware of that, but to me, the universe is a very vast place. To think that we're the only planet that has any type of habitable life, I think that might be rather small thinking there. I think that there could be other places that could be inhabited just like we are.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.